When the car accident happened, Sophia was calm. She took the critical condition notice from the doctor, signed her name, and then hurried away on the arm of her secretary. As my spirit drifted above, I felt no sadness. From school uniforms to wedding dresses, we had been together for over a decade. We had grown tired of each other. My initial pain and confusion had gradually given way to acceptance. 3 days later, at my funeral, watching my parents weep inconsolably by my gravestone, my heart ached. When my mom saw Sophia arrive late, she lost all her usual kindness. She slapped Sophia's pale face hard. "Get out. We don't need your fake sympathy. Edward doesn't want to see you now." Sophia silently hung her head, standing there without a word. As the funeral ended, my parents supported each other to leave. Dad wanted to say something as they passed Sophia, but looking at his once beloved daughter-in-law, he just sighed deeply and said nothing. Only Sophia remained at the gravestone. I was curious. Why was she still standing there? Shouldn't she be celebrating that she could finally be with her secretary, Adam? Sophia knelt before my gravestone. Gently caressing the photo, she whispered, "Edward, if we could do it all over again, would you still choose to be with me?" I looked at her scornfully, about to speak, when a tremendous force yanked my soul into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I blocked the glaring sunlight with my hand. I looked at the classmates sitting neatly around me, my brain short-circuiting for a moment. What was going on? Wait, had I been reborn? I glanced at Sophia sitting beside me, intently listening to the teacher. The sunlight illuminated her delicate face. I could even see the fine peach fuzz. No wonder Sophia was the school beauty. She was already this pretty in high school. I looked around at my classmates, trying to figure out which year of high school this was. A harsh voice interrupted my thoughts. "Edward Miller, what are you craning your neck to see? Are you trying to be a giraffe? Can't find any leaves you want to eat. Go stand in the back." Damn, I was certain now. I had been reborn all the way back to freshman year. Only Mr. Harrison had a tongue that sharp. I stood up and walked to the very back of the classroom. There was only one desk there, next to the trash can, where Miriam sat. If there was anyone from my brief past life that I couldn't forget and felt deeply guilty about until death, it was Miriam. Miriam came from a miserable family background. Her parents were both gambling addicts who neglected her. In her last year of middle school, on New Year's Eve, her father lost money gambling and demanded money from her mother. He discovered his wife had been having an affair and had given all their money to her lover. In a fit of rage, Miriam's father killed her mother and fled. When Miriam returned home from school, she found her mother dead. On New Year's Day, the police notified her that her father had been arrested and ultimately sentenced to life in prison. While other families joyfully celebrated the new year, Miriam became an orphan who wasn't truly an orphan. Despite all this, Miriam hadn't given up. She scored first in the county on the high school entrance exam and was admitted to our prestigious school, Northwood High. I learned all of this after Miriam's death in my past life, when I couldn't get over my guilt and went to investigate her past in her hometown of Galesburg. Seeing me approach, Miriam nervously scooted her chair to the side, keeping her head down and avoiding eye contact. I gritted my teeth and held back tears as I stood beside Miriam. Memories from my past life flooded my mind like a tidal wave. In my past life, on the day Miriam arrived to register, she wore an old white t-shirt, faded gray cotton pants, and cloth shoes I'd never seen before. She looked completely like a country girl. She had short hair that barely covered her eyes and walked with her head down and shoulders hunched. After registering and lining up to return to the classroom, I happened to be standing next to Miriam. Our homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison, slapped Miriam on the back, saying, "Stand up straight. Don't make our class look bad by being so listless." Miriam straightened up, and I was stunned. I'd never seen a girl so well developed. I whistled and pointed at Miriam's chest, laughing loudly. I was a troublemaker in school, and my dad had paid for me to get into this high school. Most of our classmates had come from the same middle school and follow my lead. Seeing my exaggerated reaction, they were all drawn over to gawk. Under everyone's gaze, Miriam hung her head even lower and hunched her shoulders again. From that day on, I started calling Miriam Big Milk Baby and led the whole class in bullying her. The boys would make Miriam go erase the blackboard during breaks, just to watch her bounce around awkwardly. The girls would send Miriam on errands to buy them snacks during long breaks. Miriam never fought back, just silently endured it all. You could say Miriam spent her 3 years of high school under my constant bullying, until the day before the college entrance exam, when Miriam jumped from the roof of our classroom building. Apparently, she had been groped by a middle-aged male teacher after school. She didn't know who to report it to. After she called the police, they came to investigate, but the school said she had mental problems and wouldn't stand up for her. Feeling utterly hopeless, Miriam chose to end things this way. At the time, I didn't think much of it, since I wasn't close to her anyway. But as I got older, my guilt grew stronger and stronger. I hated my high school self. I was such a jerk. I wanted to make amends somehow. I went to Galesburg and heard about Miriam's tragic history. The people of Galesburg often spoke of how Miriam was the pride of their town, the first child to test into a good high school. But this child who made them so proud had been crushed by me. Remembering all this, I slapped myself hard twice across the face. My classmates were startled by the loud sound, staring dumbfounded at my now swollen cheeks. Mr. Harrison pointed at my nose and scolded, "Edward Miller, have you lost your mind? If you forgot to take your medication, I can call your mom to bring some." I glared at Mr. Harrison. Didn't he only care about the star students? Why hadn't he ever looked out for Miriam, the top of our class, just because she had no family? But I had no right to be angry with him. I was the real villain, the one who drove Miriam to her death. I lowered my head as Mr. Harrison resumed his lecture. A trembling hand, holding an old handkerchief, appeared in front of me. "Here, wipe your mouth. You're bleeding," Miriam said timidly. Miriam's soft voice sounded in my ear. I couldn't hold back anymore. I took the handkerchief and ran out of the classroom crying. Why did the world kiss you with pain, yet you still answered with a song? Couldn't you just fiercely take revenge on me? Even killing me would be fine. I sat on the sports field until class ended. After composing myself, I returned to the classroom and went straight to Miriam's side. I crouched down and asked her in the gentlest voice I could, "Miriam, can I move my desk next to yours and sit with you?" Miriam's face went pale with fright. She quickly waved her hands, not daring to say a word. I knew she was afraid to refuse me, but also truly didn't want to sit with me. I had come on too strong. I tried to reassure her. "It's okay, I was just asking. You can say no if you don't want to." Miriam was silent for a long time before quietly saying, "I'm fine sitting by myself." I didn't press the issue and stood up to return to my own seat. Sophia looked at me with some surprise. "What were you saying to Miriam? Aren't you afraid the other students will make fun of you?" I turned and glared at her angrily. "What business is it of yours who I talk to? Mind your own business." Sophia's eyes filled with tears of being yelled at. She muttered, "You're crazy," and turned away to ignore me. To be honest, I didn't hate Sophia. Her betrayal and coldness were all in my past life. We wouldn't have any involvement in this life. Just then, some classmates started teasing Miriam to go erase the blackboard. Miriam kept her head down and chest pulled in as she walked towards the board. I stood up, rushed to the front, grabbed the eraser, and cleaned the board myself. After finishing, I looked at the stunned Miriam and my dumbfounded classmates. I announced loudly, "I want to apologize here for bullying Miriam before and causing her pain. Whether she forgives me or not, I need to apologize for what I did." I bowed deeply to Miriam. Standing up straight again, I continued, "From now on, if the board needs cleaning and those on duty don't want to do it, you can ask me. If any girls need errands run during breaks, you can ask me too. Don't bother Miriam anymore." I walked down from the podium. Miriam didn't look at me, just silently retreated to her seat. I ignored my classmates' discussions. I figured that after making my stance clear today, no one would dare bully Miriam again. When class started, I began flipping through my brand new textbooks. In my past life, I had been a terrible student. My dad had hired tutors for Sophia and me for a long time, and we had barely managed to test into a second-tier college. In this life, I wanted to keep up with Miriam's progress. To be honest, I had zero confidence. I smiled bitterly to myself. What a useless reincarnator. I was going through high school twice and still not confident I could understand it. During class, Sophia tossed me a note, then turned away haughtily. I opened it to find one sentence. "Buy me Fong's boiled fish for lunch, and I'll forgive you." I laughed angrily and wrote back, "Go eat dirt." Then I threw the note back to her. "Who needs you to forgive me? It would be better if you never forgave me or spoke to me again. I'd be grateful to your ancestors for 8 generations. Sophia opened the note eagerly, but her face turned red with anger when she saw what I'd written. She glared at me furiously. I pretended not to notice and picked up my math textbook, desperately trying to remember what had been on the math section of the college entrance exam in my past life. Why couldn't I recall a single question? If only I had died the day after taking the exam, then I could have remembered the questions without having to deal with Sophia for 10 years. With no shortcuts available, I just have to study hard. I started listening attentively in class, but kept glancing back at Miriam. It felt like after being reborn, I only had one mission: to make up for my mistakes and regrets. As for making money or starting a business, that had nothing to do with me. My dad was there for that. He was the ultimate tool. Although, thinking about it, my poor dad was pretty pitiful having to support me for 2 lifetimes. At the lunch break, my lackey surrounded me. My best friend Chris asked, "Boss, what's the deal? Are you really letting Big Milk Baby off the hook? Where are we going to find fun now?" I kicked Chris hard. "Rat, I'm warning you. Anyone who dares bully Miriam again, I'll kill them. Got it? Your boss is turning over a new leaf. I'm going to study hard." My buddies looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Chris stared in disbelief. "Boss, have you been possessed or something? You study? We've been in the same class since middle school. You're welded to the last place spot." I felt embarrassed thinking back. It really was a miracle I'd gotten into even a second-tier college in my past life. Feeling a bit angry and ashamed, I said, "I'm not joking with you guys. I'm not going to lead you in messing around anymore." are. I'm gonna study. My buddy scoffed at me. Like me, they had all paid their way into the school. For delinquents like us, studying seemed like an embarrassing thing to do. I ignored them and went to eat lunch alone. Usually, I ate with Sophia at lunchtime, but today I made her cry, so she definitely wouldn't come find me. I was happy to have some peace and quiet. In the cafeteria, I saw Chris and the gang surrounding Miriam. They watched and laughed as Miriam silently stuffed plain steamed buns into her mouth with some free soup. There were 4 large buns on Miriam's tray. Chris and the others laughed and shouted, "Big Milk Baby, stuff yourself into a fat pig that no one will love." I completely lost it. I rushed over and started punching and kicking Chris and the others. Do my words mean nothing to you? Didn't I say I'd kill anyone who dared bully Miriam again? Chris got angry after being beaten. He pointed at me. "Edward, what the hell is wrong with you? You used to bully Miriam the worst, and now you're pretending to be a good guy. We've been best friends for 3 years, and you beat me like this. You've really changed." I was left speechless by his accusations. Miriam had stopped eating. She kept her head down with her hands clenched into fists, as if she was the one who had done something wrong. I walked over and said gently, "Go ahead and eat, Miriam. No one will bully you anymore." Miriam still kept her head down, neither eating nor moving. You see it? Trying to break down the ice wall between Miriam and me was so difficult. Who would accept someone who had bullied them from the first day of high school, then suddenly started being nice? I pulled Chris aside and brought my group of friends to the bleachers by the sports field. I put my arm around Chris's shoulders and said, "Rat, believe it or not, everything you did to Miriam today will be like a knife carving out your heart when you look back on it in the future. Can you imagine how that will feel?" Chris and the others looked at me in confusion. Chris asked why. I sighed and began telling them about Miriam's past. At 15 or 16 years old, it's when kids' sense of empathy is overflowing. Unless someone is born evil, no one could withstand that kind of pain. Chris and the other guys all started crying as I told Miriam's story. Miriam's life is so tragic. A gambling addict dad, a cheating mom, a miserable childhood, a broken family, Chris said between sobs. "Cut the crap with your love rises as the clock strikes. But feelings are hard to let go when the clock stops nonsense," I said irritably. Chris looked at me in confusion. "Boss, what does that mean?" I waved my hand dismissively. I had accidentally revealed my status as someone reborn. "Never mind. You'll understand when you're older. For now, think about how you've treated Miriam in the past and how you should treat her going forward." My friends all declared they would protect Miriam from now on. I scoffed, as if she needs you guys. On the way back to the classroom from the field, Chris came up and asked me, "Boss, is that why you slapped yourself this morning? Because you felt guilty about bullying Miriam?" I nodded. "And how do you know about Miriam's past?" "I don't even know where she lives. She stays in the dorms, and I've never seen her go home," Chris continued. My heart ached. "Rat, does Miriam even have a home anymore?" That one sentence silenced Chris. Seeing he was about to cry again, I quickly kicked him. "Stop it." Chris composed himself and kept questioning me. "Boss, you still haven't answered me. How do you know about her past? You couldn't have fallen for her and investigated her, right?" Chris's questions stumped me. Did I like Miriam? It didn't seem like it. I just felt guilty. Guilty enough to hate myself and be willing to die in Miriam's place. Seeing I didn't answer, Chris misunderstood. "Damn, boss, you've got some heavy tastes. Don't tell me you've been captivated by Miriam's big chest. Haven't you noticed how all the male teachers stare towards the back of our classroom when they walk by?" I suddenly remembered that in my past life, Miriam had ultimately died full of resentment after being assaulted. I still didn't know which beast of a male teacher had groped her. If I knew, I'd kill him right now. Back in the classroom, Chris saw Miriam sitting by the trash can and felt bad. He went to the front row and pointed at Sophia's best friend, Olivia. "You grab your desk and get to the back." Olivia stood up angrily. She didn't dare defy Chris, but looked to Sophia for help. Sophia turned to me with a pleading look, but I completely ignored her. In my past life, that Secretary Sophia had an affair with was introduced to her by Olivia. I bet my life there was something fishy between Olivia and that secretary. Seeing I wasn't going to help, Sophia shook her head helplessly at Olivia. Olivia glared at Chris and said, "Just you wait, I'll be back." Then she picked up her desk and walked to the back. Chris ran over to Miriam like an eager puppy. "Sister-in-law, let me help you move." I covered my face in embarrassment. Miriam was stunned. She sat there as Chris moved her desk to the front row. But then Olivia's desk mate stood up and pointed at Miriam. "I won't sit next to her. She stinks." Hearing this, Miriam, who had just stood up from the back row, lowered her head and sat back down. Chris lost it. All the guys who had heard Miriam's tragic story at lunch lost it. Chris flew into a flying kick that sent Olivia's desk mate sprawling by the trash can. The others piled on, eager to prove themselves in front of Miriam. "Who are you calling stinky? Nothing could stink worse than your mouth. I'm telling you, if we were outside, I'd knock all your teeth out." I was terrified. At 15 or 16, they had no sense of restraint. If they beat him to death, it would be a huge problem. I rushed into the crowd and pulled everyone apart. Chris was still spitting at Olivia's desk mate. "You ugly loser!" loser. You think you're worthy of sitting next to my sister-in-law? Are you out of your mind? Then Chris pointed at Olivia. You go move his desk over. Don't you two love sitting together? Go sit by the trash can. If you dare tell a teacher, I'll have someone mess you both up outside of school, got it? Olivia quickly moved her desk mate's desk over, terrified, then went to help him up. Miriam walked to the front row with her head down. Chris followed behind, carrying her chair, providing full service. After finishing, Chris waved at me. Boss, sister-in-law is here. Hurry up and move over too. I glared at him. What are you yelling about? Where did this sister-in-law come from? But inside, I was delighted. Good job, kid. You know how to handle things. Sophia grabbed my arm as I started moving my desk. You're not really going to sit with Big Milk Baby, are you? Aren't you afraid people will make fun of you? I shook off her hand. Get lost. Anyone who dares make fun of me, and stop calling her Big Milk Baby. You want people to call you names too. At least you need to have something there first. I looked scornfully at Sophia's flat chest. This time, Sophia really burst into tears, sobbing with her head on her desk. I couldn't be bothered with her. I casually put my desk next to Miriam's, then went back for my chair. Miriam scooted to the side, trying to stay as far from me as possible. I felt deflated to think that Edward Miller, the most handsome guy at Northwood High, would actually be shunned by someone one day. When class started, our homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison, walked in. He looked at me, then at Miriam, and wrinkled his nose in disgust. Miriam lowered her head, pressing her lips tightly together. My temper flared. Mr. Harrison, did you step in dog poop? No wonder you're fanning the air. As soon as you came in, I smelled something foul. I turned to Chris. Rat, did you smell it too? Chris nodded. Yeah, I smelled it. As soon as Mr. Harrison came in, the stench of bullshit wafted in with him. My other lackeys joined in the heckling. Mr. Harrison had never faced this kind of situation before. He angrily slammed his textbook on the podium. All of you, shut up. What nonsense are you talking about? When did I step in dog poop? I snickered. You've fallen right into it now. I led my gang in heckling until we finally drove Mr. Harrison away in a rage. I tried to show off to Miriam, but she ignored me. Well, this was awkward. I made up my mind that Mr. Harrison had to go. It was one thing for him to target me, but I wouldn't let him get away with targeting Miriam. After school, since we were day students, I walked home with Chris and the others. We all lived in the same neighborhood. On the way back, I told Chris and the guys, when you get home, tell your parents that Mr. Harrison suddenly left us to self-study today for no reason and didn't teach class. Tomorrow, have your parents go complain to the school and get Mr. Harrison replaced. Chris and the others looked at me in surprise. Boss, we never realized you were so devious. Is this really okay? Mr. Harrison hasn't really done anything wrong. What are you talking about? In the adult world, there's no right or wrong. If he dares target Miriam, I have to take him down, understand? Chris and the others nodded. All right, boss, we'll do what you say. When I got home, my dad was reading the newspaper on the couch, and my mom was busy in the kitchen. Seeing my parents again, I felt deeply emotional. Thinking of how heartbroken they had been in my past life, I felt awful. I bent down to hug my dad. Dad, I missed you. Get off me. Go hug your mother if you want hugs. You're a grown man, taller than me. Stop being so clingy, it's disgusting. Dad shoved me away in disgust. I considered his words. They did make sense. I ran into the kitchen and hugged my mom. She reflexively slapped me, covering my face in flour. Get out of here. You're not a little kid anymore. Go wait somewhere else. Don't get in the way of my cooking. Well then, so much for the touching family moment. There was no love in this house. During dinner, I told Dad about wanting to change teachers. He angrily slammed his chopsticks on the table. With your dead last grades, what difference does it make who teaches you? The teacher is irresponsible and doesn't teach, just makes you self-study. Even if they teach, do you listen? Can you even understand? My temper flared. John Miller, don't look down on me. I'm telling you, if you give me a new teacher, I'll definitely improve by the end of freshman year. Want to make a bet? Dad laughed angrily. What do you want to bet? You set the terms. Just get rid of Mr. Harrison first. Phoenix, I'll go to the school tomorrow and talk to your principal. What do you want as your new homeroom teacher? I thought for a moment. Switch to Ms. Peterson, who teaches English. She may be young, but she's responsible. I had my own calculations. MS. Peterson had only graduated a few years ago, so while she lacked experience, she was the only teacher who didn't look down on Miriam. She also lived at the school, and I'd seen her take Miriam to eat in the cafeteria several times at night. All right, eat your dinner. I agree. If you don't do well on your finals, I'll deal with you then. I smiled and started serving food to my parents. Old John may be fierce and ruthless in business, but he always gave me what I wanted. The next morning, Mr. Harrison was still at the podium scolding us when the principal opened the classroom door. Mr. Harrison, please come out for a moment. Mr. Harrison hurriedly ran out like an eager dog. Seeing my dad next to the principal, along with Chris's and the other guy's parents, I felt confident this was in the bag. bag. Sure enough, soon the principal returned with Ms. Peterson, who taught English. Students, I have an announcement. Starting today, Ms. Peterson will be your new homeroom teacher. Due to a job transfer, Mr. Harrison will no longer be teaching at our school. Everyone, please welcome Ms. Peterson. I saw Miriam raise her head in that moment. Her eyes lit up. I felt it was all worth it. Pulling strings and mobilizing so many parents just to see a glimmer of light in Miriam's eyes. Ms. Peterson was very responsible and treated all students equally. At first, Chris and the guys still caused trouble, but after I pointed out that Miriam strongly supported Ms. Peterson, those guys stopped talking in class. If anyone passing by our classroom spoke loudly during self-study time, Chris would lead the charge to run out and kick them. I really started studying hard, but I just couldn't get the hang of it. I tried asking Miriam for help, but she ignored me. Sophia had completely broken up with me. We hadn't had much of a connection to begin with. In my past life, we only started dating in junior year. Before that, we were just desk mates and friends. One day, during PE class, I stayed inside wrestling with a problem. A classmate ran in, panicked. "Boss, it's bad. Chris and the others are fighting with the seniors." I was shocked. How bold, freshmen taking on seniors. I quickly ran out with a classmate. The schoolyard was packed with people. When I pushed through, Chris was grabbing a male student and punching him in the face. The discipline teacher and several male teachers were trying to restrain them. Ms. Peterson was desperately pulling Chris back, but he was like a madman. So many people couldn't hold him back. The seniors on the other side were cursing at Chris, itching to charge in. "Ich rushed over. Rat, have you gone crazy? What happened? Boss, these idiots deserve a beating." Miriam was just walking normally when that guy, with the side-swept bangs, blocked her way. He called her Big Milk Baby and asked if she could walk steadily or if she needed help supporting Mount Everest. After hearing Chris explain, I frantically searched for Miriam. I saw her standing behind Ms. Peterson with her head down. I breathed a sigh of relief that she was okay. I went a bit mad too, looking all around. My buddies asked what I was looking for, but I didn't answer. I spotted the microphone stand on the stage. I ran up in a few steps and grabbed the mic stand. At that moment, I only had one thought: kill him. My aura must have been terrifying because no one dared stop me. The senior with the side-swept bangs tried to act tough. "Edward, I know who you are. Let me tell you, my big brother is." I swung the mic stand and cracked him over the head. "I don't care if your brother is the president. I'm still going to kill you today." He crouched down, clutching his head. I kept swinging the broken mic stand at his head like a maniac. Chris and the others tackled me to the ground. Seeing how I really seemed intent on killing the guy, they were all terrified. That mic stand was metal after all. I struggled to get up, but they held me down firmly. Back in the classroom, the principal and the discipline teacher came to lecture us. Ms. Peterson interrupted the principal's tirade. "Principal, I believe that while Edward and Chris's violent behavior was wrong, their intention to protect a classmate from bullying was good. I asked Miriam about the situation, and that senior student was harassing her. I don't think they were wrong to protect their classmate, even if their methods were excessive." I nearly cried. Choosing Ms. Peterson as our homeroom teacher had definitely been the right call. I also felt a bit sheepish. Chris had been protecting a classmate, while I was more seeking revenge after the fact. But I didn't regret it. Anyone who dared bully Miriam, I would take them down. The principal was clearly unhappy at being contradicted. The brown-nosing discipline teacher started criticizing Ms. Peterson. "Ms. Peterson, mind your tone. This is a school. Fighting on school grounds is wrong, regardless of the reason." Before he could finish, I immediately called my dad. "Dad, I got in a fight at school. Can you come?" Chris and the others got the hint and quickly took out their phones to start calling people too. The principal's head started to hurt as he looked at the bottom 10 students in the class. Last time, these 10 had gotten Mr. Harrison fired. Who knew what trouble they'd stir up this time? Soon, my dad arrived with a group of parents. The principal took them to his office. We didn't go. Now that the adults were here, we didn't need to handle it ourselves. I asked Miriam, "Wasn't your big brother cool today? From now on, if anyone dares bully you, don't just take it. I've got your back." Miriam hesitated for a long time before saying, "You used to bully me the most." She had spoken to me. After being reborn and waiting so long, she had finally spoken to me. My spring had arrived. I couldn't help breaking into laughter. Miriam looked at me like I was crazy and muttered quietly, "You're nuts." Damn, she'd said 2 sentences to me. I was overjoyed. Miriam ignored me after that, nervously scooting her chair further away. Who would dare get close to the crazy person laughing to himself next to them? I didn't care. I was still basking in my happiness. With my dad taking charge, worth 2 of anyone else, we paid some medical fees and nutrition fees. I got a major demerit on my record, but otherwise, everything was smoothed over. Ms. Peterson's righteous defense had greatly increased her prestige in the class. She urged everyone to cherish each day of high school and study hard. Even Chris and the guys started studying diligently. Damn, I was struggling to even get started, and these guys were already taking off. At this rate, wouldn't I still be dead last for the semester finals? Ever since I'd stood up for Miriam in the fight, her attitude towards me had changed a bit. She no longer avoided me from a distance like before, but she still wouldn't talk to me. If she wouldn't talk to me, fine, but what really irritated me was that she would talk to Chris. That jerk Chris was always coming over with his books to ask Miriam questions. Each time, Miriam would softly explain things to him. I was dying of jealousy. During self-study period, I spent 10 minutes on one math problem and couldn't even understand the question. On a whim, I poked Miriam. She nearly curled up like a hedgehog in fright. I shook my head helplessly. Sis, am I really that scary? I just wanted to ask you about a problem. Miriam took a long time to calm down. She took my book, glancing at me several times. Finally, she couldn't help asking, do you really want to study? Damn, I've been dying all day. Did she think I was just putting on an act? I nodded eagerly. Of course I want to study. If I come in last place again for finals, old John will kill me. Miriam shook her head, clearly not believing me. After all, Chris had said I was welded to the last place spot, yet here I was still alive and well. I had an idea and tried to scare Miriam. Let me tell you something. I'm the one who got rid of Mr. Harrison. I made a bet with my dad that if he could get Miss Peterson as our homeroom teacher, I'd definitely improve by finals. If I come in last again, Miss Peterson won't be able to stay as our teacher. Miriam panicked. She looked at me, and I nodded firmly. I had no other skills, but my greatest talent was believing my own lies. I was an expert at deceiving myself. If I could fool myself, then what I said must be true. Miriam was won over. She became even more anxious about my studies than I was. Every day before leaving school, she would ask if there was anything I didn't understand. How could I pass up this opportunity? I wished I could have her reteach me everything from the whole day. Listening to Miriam's soft voice, I was entranced. Miriam's intelligence and ability to explain things was truly top tier. Although she didn't talk much, whenever she did speak, she got straight to the point. Under the guidance of Professor Miriam, I slowly started to get on track. Seeing me furiously writing every night, my parents were stunned. My mom uncertainly asked my dad, do you think our son is really studying? This intensity is a bit scary. Old John nodded uncertainly. He should be studying. If he really works this hard, maybe he can even make it to second to last place. After 3 months of hard work, finals arrived. Before the exam, I felt a bit unsure. I gathered Chris and the guys. Listen up, this exam is really important for me. I want all of you to turn in blank papers. Got it. If I come in last place again, Miriam will definitely stop talking to me. Chris and the others looked at me reluctantly. Boss, we've been studying for months too. We also want to use the finals to test ourselves. You'll have plenty of chances to test yourselves in the future. Just turn in blank papers this time. Rat, not bad. You even know how to use the word test now. Ignoring their grumbling, I confidently walked into the exam room. With those guys as padding, there was no way I could possibly come in last. After the exams, I knew I was in good shape. Except for English, there wasn't much I couldn't do. A few days later, the results came out. I ranked 5th in the class. I was stunned. How did I, a total loser, manage to place 5th after just 3 months of effort? Had everyone heard the rumor that Ms. Peterson would be removed if I didn't do well and deliberately held back? Chris and the guys had broken their promise and didn't turn in blank papers, but I still easily outperformed them. I was thrilled. I looked at Miriam with my score report in hand. Miriam let out a sigh of relief. Ms. Peterson wouldn't be leaving. After announcing the scores, Ms. Peterson praised me and Chris's group for our big improvements, saying we could get our disciplinary records expunged next year if we kept it up. I didn't care about that at all. However, Ms. Peterson criticized Miriam, not pulling any punches. Miriam was still 1st in the class and 10th in the grade overall, but she only scored a 90 in English, barely passing. If her English had been 120 points, she would have been 1st in the grade. Ms. Peterson scolded her harshly. Miriam was in tears. It hurt me to watch, but I understood Ms. Peterson wasn't wrong to criticize her. Miriam never spoke up, so of course her English wouldn't improve. That evening after school, I stopped Miriam and asked about her summer plans. She said she wanted to find a job. My heart ached. This silly girl who would hire a minor. I told her I was planning to ask Ms. Peterson to tutor me in English over the break and asked if she wanted to join. Miriam shook her head no. I had expected this response and didn't push it. Miriam was my little treasure. I had to take care of her. Now that our relationship had finally improved a bit, I didn't dare force her or she might curl up and withdraw again. I had my dad reach out to Ms. Peterson. At first, she refused, but when she heard Miriam could stay at my house and study with me, Ms. Peterson immediately agreed. She truly cared about Miriam and wanted her to compete for the top spot in the grade. Ms. Peterson went to try to convince Miriam, but to everyone's surprise, Miriam firmly refused, despite usually doing whatever Ms. Peterson said. It looked like I would have to step in. I went to the school dorms and had Ms. Peterson help me calm Miriam down. Miriam and I went to the sports field. Sitting on the grass, Miriam sat down next to me. I stared at her as she kept her head down, lost in thought. I asked her why she wouldn't come to my house. She said she didn't want to owe anyone anything because she had nothing and couldn't repay debts. Those words nearly broke me. Please, can you talk like a normal person? You're killing me here. I told her I knew about her family situation. Miriam looked up at me in surprise. I launched into my real offensive. Miriam, I know what you're thinking, but let me ask you one thing. Don't you want to escape Galesburg, escape River City, go somewhere you want to go, and live the life you want to live? Miriam was silent for a long time before nodding firmly. I understood all too well the greatest wish of a child from an unhappy family. They want to escape everything from their upbringing and start a brand new life somewhere no one knows them. Then you have to come to my house. You have to accept the kindness Ms. Peterson and we are offering. It's the only way you can improve your English and test into a university in the city you want to go to. What you need to accumulate now is the capital for taking off, not some paltry wealth. Even if somewhere would hire you, how much could you really earn? A direct hit to the heart. After a while, Miriam lowered her head. It's too much trouble for you all. I smiled and patted her head. You can pay us back later. Miriam had nothing now except her fierce pride. If I said it was no trouble, she would definitely think I was being charitable, letting her owe a debt to repay later. This way she would feel better about it, and I would have an excuse to keep getting close to her. That evening, I brought Miriam home. She followed behind me like a wrong child. When my parents saw Miriam come in, they both stood up to greet her. My mom especially grabbed Miriam's hand and looked her up and down. This child is so pretty and clean looking. I gave my mom an exasperated look. What kind of standards were those? Sure, Miriam was clean enough, but pretty? Was it her hunched posture and boy short hair that you found pretty? Her curvy figure was her only obviously feminine feature. Mom took Miriam to get her room ready. When they went to unpack Miriam's luggage, Mom started crying. She kept rubbing Miriam's back. This poor child has had such a hard life. These shoes and clothes are the kind we used to wear back in the day. Look, the cotton clothes are so faded from washing. How many times must they have been washed? I rolled my eyes. If you saw how she eats 4 huge steam buns with free soup for lunch every day, you'd cry even harder. Thinking about it made me feel bad for her too. Eating only 1 meal a day, she had to stuff herself. Ms. Peterson only occasionally treated Miriam to better meals in the evenings. After Miriam was settled in, my parents discussed taking her shopping for new clothes tomorrow. I quickly interrupted. You two better cool it. If you don't want to scare her away, don't be too nice to her. Dad glared at me, but still tried to calm Mom down. I know you feel bad for this child, but kids from poor families often have stronger pride than average, especially those with unhappy childhoods. Not every kid is as thick-skinned as our son. We need to take it slow. I turned and left for bed, so annoyed I felt sleepy. The next morning, Ms. Peterson came over early, saying she had nothing to do over the summer and wanted to give Miriam and me extra tutoring. When the lesson started, Ms. Peterson completely lost her usual gentle demeanor. I was fine. I did whatever Ms. Peterson told me to do. Miriam had it rough, though. When told to read aloud, she would barely make a sound above a whisper. Ms. Peterson was getting so frustrated she nearly raised a hand to Miriam. I was anxious on Miriam's behalf. The third time, Ms. Peterson told her to speak up. Miriam had barely started her tiny mumble when Ms. Peterson lost it. She slapped Miriam hard on the back, making her lurch forward. I quickly reached out to catch her, but unfortunately, my hand landed right on her right breast. Damn, my big hand only covered less than half of it. Miriam hurriedly pushed me away and sat up straight. Now I was even more flustered. The side view was too prominent. Ms. Peterson hadn't noticed our little interaction. She angrily pointed at Miriam. I don't have time to read your lips. I never learned lip reading. Speak up. I couldn't help laughing. Miriam lowered her head. The next time Ms. Peterson told her to read, just as Miriam was about to start mumbling, I reached under the table and made a fist in front of her. Her voice immediately got louder, and so Miriam finally opened her mouth. We studied until 9 a.m. when Mom brought in breakfast. She urged us to eat, but Miriam refused, saying she wasn't in the habit of eating breakfast. Mom still dragged her to sit at the table. After finishing a bowl of porridge, Miriam stopped eating. I used my eyes to stop Mom from trying to get Miriam to eat more. For Miriam, being willing to eat at all was already progress. After eating, we continued studying. Miriam's voice was fully opened up now. Her English reading sounded really good. At 1 p.m., lunch was ready. Miriam silently ate her rice. Whatever dish Mom put in her bowl, she would eat, but she never reached for food herself. After finishing 1 bowl of rice, she took her bowl to the kitchen. Mom followed her in. Let me get you some more. How could we let you serve yourself? But Miriam was already washing her bowl. She lowered her head and said to Mom, Annie, I'm full. Mom quietly asked me, is she really full? Some girls do have small appetites. I deliberately spoke loudly so Miriam could hear. Small appetite? Did you forget what I told you yesterday? She can eat 4 of those huge steam buns with soup for lunch every day. Ms. Peterson covered her mouth and laughed. When Miriam came out, her ears were bright red. I did it on purpose. I wanted her to know she didn't need to be polite and hold back at our house. She should eat freely. Sure enough, by dinner time, Miriam had started slowly reaching for dishes herself, though only the ones right in front of her. Mom would serve her the rest. After finishing a bowl of rice, Miriam lowered her head. "Annie, I'll go get more rice." I had to try very hard not to laugh. After dinner, the four of us went for a walk around the neighborhood. Chris and the guys were playing basketball outside. They were shocked to see Miriam and all came over to gawk. Miriam greeted them on her own. Ever since Chris and the guys had stood up for Miriam and fought the seniors, she had started interacting with them normally. At the time, it had made me insanely jealous. When the guys found out Miriam was staying at my house and Ms. Peterson was tutoring us, they were so envious. They all said they wanted to come study too, but Chris kicked them away one by one. Chris gave me a knowing look, and I immediately raised an eyebrow back. "You're the man, Chris. You get me." The annoying thing was that Sophia somehow found out Ms. Peterson was tutoring Miriam and me. The next morning, she showed up at our door with her book bag. Mom politely invited her in, since our families were close. I thought to myself, Mom, in my past life, you were the one who slapped her with your big mouth. At lunch, Sophia spoke carelessly at the table, not only calling Miriam Big Milk Baby, but also laughing about how I used to bully Miriam in school. Watching Miriam's head sink lower and lower, and Mom's face grow darker and darker, I knew trouble was brewing. As soon as Sophia put down her rice bowl, Mom said sternly, "Sophia, you should go home this afternoon and don't come back in the future. You're not welcome in our home anymore." Sophia was stunned. She said goodbye to Mom and ran out of our house crying. I was delighted. I gave Mom a thumbs up. That's my mom, always with the right values. Mom looked at me expressionlessly, then went back to her room and didn't come out all afternoon. I had an ominous feeling. I didn't pay it much mind, though. Miriam seemed quite happy all afternoon since my mom had stood up for her. In the evening, when Dad got home, it was just the four of us since Ms. Peterson didn't eat dinner with us. Before the meal, Mom pulled Dad into the bedroom and said something to him. When they came out, Dad's face was dark. During dinner, I tried to liven things up, but Mom and Dad wouldn't even look at me. After eating, Miriam was getting ready to go for our usual evening walk, but Mom and Dad sat down on the couch without moving. Mom called Miriam over to sit next to her and put an arm around Miriam's shoulders. Dad called me over to stand in front of him. When Dad pulled out his belt, I knew I was in trouble. I was all too familiar with this move. In my past life, I'd been on the receiving end plenty of times when I messed up. The memory of that pain was still fresh in this life. I was about to run when Mom calmly said, "Kneel down." I obediently knelt. When Mom rarely got angry, even Dad would cower like a mouse seeing a cat. I stood no chance. Dad started swinging without a word. I howled and begged for mercy as the blows rained down. As he whipped me, Dad said, "So you've done well for yourself, making fun of other people's physical features and leading everyone in bullying Miriam. Does picking on those weaker than you give you a thrill?" Dad was so angry he was panting heavily. I stopped yelling. He was truly furious. "I can tolerate you being useless. I don't mind supporting you. But if you're rotten, I'll beat that rottenness right out of you." I wanted to protest that it was unfair. That was the me from my past life. Why should the reformed me of this life bear the punishment? Settling past life's debts in this life. Would it never end? Miriam saw how badly I was being beaten and quickly tried to intercede. "Uncle, Annie, Edward hasn't bullied me at all lately. He's been very good to me." Mom pulled her back down to sit. "Don't interfere. He deserves this." "Fine, I'll endure it." Being disciplined like this in front of Miriam, I had no face left at all. After 20 minutes of beating, Dad finally stopped. "Get back to your room and reflect on what you've done." My whole body was bruised. I had to crawl back to my room. I couldn't even lie down, only sprawl on my stomach on the bed. I heard the door close as the three of them went out for their walk. I was truly an innocent victim here, paying for my past life and not even getting to join the fun. As I was drifting off, I felt someone touching my back. I painfully turned my head to see Miriam applying medicine. As she rubbed it on, she asked softly, "Does it hurt?" I shook my head. "I bullied you so much before. I really did deserve a beating. This whipping was what I owed you." Miriam fell silent and kept applying the medicine. When she finished, she gently closed the door and went back to her room. My heart felt incredibly warm. She was starting to care about me. Thinking about it more, though, something seemed off. Ever since Miriam had started talking to me, I'd been thrilled no matter what she said, even if she was scolding me. Wasn't I acting like a total lovesick fool? She couldn't be some high-level green tea player stringing me along, could she? That seemed impossible. Even if she was toying with me, I'd accept it. I'd keep chasing her. I owed her for my past life anyway. After Dad's beating, Miriam and Mom's relationship got better and better. Miriam started slowly integrating into the family. This harmony had been bought with my blood and bruises. Before school started again, Ms. Peterson had to prepare for the new semester and stop tutoring Miriam and me. Miriam was going to go back to the dorms, but Mom wouldn't let her, so she really stayed. Now Mom's words carried more weight with Miriam than mine did. Mom took Miriam shopping for clothes. With me, as the bag carrier. She bought Miriam lots of new clothes and shoes. I don't know what Mom said to Miriam, but Miriam didn't refuse any of it. When Miriam appeared before me in a white, fitted sundress with a red headband, I was stunned. She had pulled all her hair back, revealing her whole face. Was this really Miriam? She was way prettier than Sophia, especially with her chest out and head held high. That figure. In that moment, my heart skipped a beat. Chris's sister-in-law nickname turned out to be spot on. Back home, Dad also thought Miriam looked stunning. That night, I quietly asked Miriam what Mom had said to her. Miriam told me. Annie said the reason I got bullied was because I lacked confidence. She said a woman needs to have faith in herself to be strong. Clothes are just external, but they can bring out your inner qualities. Indeed, under Mom's subtle influence over the past 2 months, Miriam had become much more confident than before. I nodded. You even dare to eat 3 bowls of rice now. Who could say you lack confidence? Miriam's face immediately turned red with embarrassment. The day before school started, Emma packed her new school bag. Dad called us both downstairs in the living room. Mom and Dad sat on the couch. Mom gently asked Miriam, "Miriam, dear, we've lived together for 2 months now. We know about your background. Your uncle and I have always wanted a daughter. Would you be willing to be our daughter?" Miriam started crying. "I've never been loved since I was little. Annie, actually, ever since I came here, I've known how good you've been to me. You served me food, you stood up for me, and since Sophia away, you even beat Edward harshly for bullying me. You've taught me how to be a woman. I felt a mother's love from you that I've never experienced before. I've been cherished and protected like a daughter. I've long thought of you as my mom." Mom hugged Miriam, crying. The two of them sobbed together. Was it settled just like that? Damn, they cried so easily. I was moved to tears too, but this wouldn't work. If you adopt Miriam as your daughter, what about me? I object. I shouted. "Shut up and get out of here. Miriam is your sister now. If she gets bullied again, you'll get another beating like last time. That's the standard punishment," Dad said. "What if someone else bullies her?" I asked. "That's exactly what I mean. Are you planning to bully her yourself? If anyone else bullies her, of course she'll come to her big brother for help." Dad looked at me scornfully. There was no reasoning in this house anymore. I stomped upstairs angrily and quickly Googled whether non-blood related siblings could date and marry. The answer was that as long as there was no blood relation, it was fine. All right then. I breathed a sigh of relief. So Miriam had officially become a member of our family and was living with us permanently. Every day, Miriam and I went to school together and came home together. At school, we even sat at the same desk. We talked more and more, and gradually I noticed Miriam becoming more dependent on me. She was the type who didn't have strong opinions of her own, but had good judgment and was very capable at carrying things out. Each day, Miriam would walk home with me, Chris, and our group of friends. Miriam had become close with all of them. They all knew about her background and were very good to her. That teacher who had groped Miriam in my past life never appeared. With our big group together every day, he never had a chance. I had considered using Miriam as bait to catch him, but abandoned the idea when I thought about Miriam potentially being in danger. 3 years of high school flew by in the blink of an eye. By now, I had completely transformed into a proper high school student. It had taken 2 lifetimes, but I had finally walked the path a normal student should. Chris and the guys had also shed their delinquent ways. On the day of the college entrance exam, Ms. Peterson and Mom flanked Miriam on either side. Mom wore a bright red Cheongsam dress for good luck. Dad got the short end of the stick. Mom had forced him to take off his shirt and change into a yellow jacket, saying it symbolized winning right out of the gate. Miriam and I couldn't stop laughing at the sight of an embarrassed Dad standing awkwardly in the crowd. Ms. Peterson hugged Miriam and told her not to be nervous. I pointed at Dad in the crowd and said, "Miriam and I can't help laughing whenever we see him. We definitely won't be nervous." Everyone burst out laughing again. The 2 days of exams went smoothly. When we came out of the exam room, Miriam and I smiled and flashed victory signs at the 3 adults waiting outside. We'd done it. I was planning a trip for Miriam and me, but Dad stopped me. He said Miriam had plans for the summer. I was confused, but the next day, Dad took Miriam to Miller Corporation. Miriam officially started working at Miller Corporation. When it came time to submit our college applications, Miriam and I both applied to a top university in DC. Our test scores were good enough, and Chris and the guys had done pretty well too. Coming out of the school, I let out a big sigh. "Miriam, now that we've submitted our applications, can we finally go on that trip?" Miriam looked at me apologetically. "Dad said he wants me to intern at the company this summer. Why don't you go by yourself, bro?" "Go by myself? No way." At dinner that night, I angrily confronted Dad. "Are you using Miriam as free labor? The summer after senior year is precious. We finally have no pressure. Shouldn't we get to go have some fun?" Dad looked at me scornfully. "You useless bum can go wherever you want. I'm not stopping you. But my daughter can't be idle like you." He turned to Mom and said, "You have no idea." After Miriam got familiar with the company operations, she made several decisions that cut right to the core issues. That's true talent, a natural gift for management. Looks like I can retire after our daughter graduates college. college. I was stunned. What about me? I'm so capable now. Aren't you considering letting me inherit the company? Dad looked at me with disdain. Without Miriam leading you by the hand, you're just a useless fish flopping around. You may be decent now, but your essential nature hasn't changed. Don't even think about getting the company. I protested indignantly. Fine then, in a few years, the company will become Hayes Corp anyway. Miriam hurriedly waved her hands. No, that won't happen. Dad raised his hand to stop Miriam from continuing. If I give it to Miriam, it will be hers. I'm not old-fashioned. Son or daughter makes no difference to me. As for what name the company has, that will depend on your own abilities, kid. I suddenly understood. Looking at Mom, smiling without speaking, I knew I had their support. If I didn't make my move now, when would I? I grabbed Miriam's hand. Miriam, I don't know how you feel about me, if you like me at all, but I can say for certain now that I truly like you and am willing to do anything for you, even give my life. I want to formally ask you, will you be my girlfriend? Emma's face was practically buried in her rice bowl. After hearing me out, she gave a tiny nod of assent. Damn, she agreed. I was overjoyed at finally getting my wish. Mom and Dad were happy too. Now, we had truly become a family. I let myself go wild. I've been holding back for so long in this whole reborn lifetime, I still hadn't gotten any action. Every day, when Miriam got off work, I would cling to her. She didn't refuse kisses and hugs, but whenever I tried to go further, Miriam always said no. She said she was too embarrassed at home. I grinned mischievously. Then how about after we start college? Miriam gave another tiny nod. On moving day, Dad drove our whole family to D.C. I was so impatient, I wanted my parents to hurry up and leave so I could carry out my grand plan. But Mom said it had been a long time since they'd visited D.C., so she and Dad were planning to stay and play for a few days until after our military training finished. I was so annoyed, I skipped dinner. We finally made it through military training. At lunch, Mom and Dad took Miriam and me out to eat. After the meal, Mom seriously told Miriam to protect herself and not give in to my urges. Dad pulled me aside and warned me in a low voice. I'm a man too, I understand. But if you get careless and produce a little Edward or little Miriam, don't blame me for coming to D.C. to break your legs. I impatiently urged him. I know. Hurry up and take Mom home already. After seeing my parents off, I pestered Miriam. She looked at me helplessly. Mom said to protect myself and not give in to your whims. Are you going to listen to me or Mom? Who's your husband? Can't you tell who's more important? I argued. Miriam looked a bit scared. After all, she had followed my lead for the past 3 years. After my coaxing and pressuring, that night, I finally got what I wanted. The next morning, Miriam cried. I panicked, afraid she would call Mom and say, Mom, Edward bullied me. If that happened, I'd probably have to take a year off school. I hurried to comfort Miriam. She hugged me tightly. Bro, we won't end up like my parents, will we? You know, when I was 15, seeing my 34-year-old mom lying cold in a coffin. That's when I decided marriage was too scary. I didn't want to date or get married. Poor child. I stroked Miriam's back. We won't. You know, I already lost you once, on June 6th. It took the pain of being run over by a car, feeling like my body was being torn apart, for me to get this chance to be with you. Every day I have with you now is a blessing from heaven. How could I not cherish it? Miriam didn't understand. She blinked her big eyes at me in confusion. I didn't explain about being reborn. I just held Miriam's face and said seriously, remember, you are the person I treasure most in this world. Even if I had to go through that excruciating pain 1,000,000 times over, I would do it to protect you and love you forever. No one can enjoy their youth while also having the wisdom that comes with age. But I could. I would hold Miriam's hand and walk with her to the very end. Because I knew Miriam was worth it. But I could. I would hold Emma's hand and walk with her to the very end. Because I knew Emma was worth it.